Hey baddies! In this video, I'm making a chocolate whiskey bundt cake. The cake has both whiskey in the batter and is soaked in a sweet whiskey syrup after it's baked. It's boozy, it's chocolatey, and it's the perfect cake to make for the holidays or for any occasion really, so let's get to the recipe. We're going to start by making the cake. Put the butter, whiskey, coffee, and cocoa powder in a saucepan and whisk over medium heat until the butter is melted. I'm using a blended Scotch whiskey, but feel free to use whichever kind of whiskey you like the best. Once the butter is melted, turn off the heat and stir in the sugar. Once the sugar is well combined, pour the mixture into a large bowl and set it aside to cool. Meanwhile, mix together the dry ingredients in a medium bowl. I'm using half whole wheat flour because I like the slight nutty flavor that it adds, but feel free to use only all-purpose flour. Once the liquid mixture has cooled down a bit, whisk in the eggs one at a time. Next, incorporate the flour mixture by whisking it in a bit at a time. Be careful not to overmix the batter, as this could result in a tough cake. Next, prep the Bundt pan by greasing it with butter. You can use a pastry brush for this part, but I like to use my fingers to get in all the nooks and crannies. Dust the pan with cocoa powder and tap out the excess. Pour the cake batter into the pan and tap it on the counter a few times to pop any air bubbles. Bake the cake in a preheated 325-degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center of the cake comes out clean. Prepare the whiskey syrup while the cake is baking. Combine whiskey, sugar, and water in a saucepan and cook it over medium heat until the sugar dissolves. Once the cake is finished baking, take it out of the oven. While it's still warm, poke the bottom of the cake all over with a long toothpick or skewer, about 3/4 deep into the cake. Next, spoon the whiskey syrup all over it, making sure to evenly coat the entire surface. Wait for the cake to absorb the syrup before adding the next spoonful. Repeat this process until you've used up about 2/3 of the syrup. Leave the cake to soak for about 20 to 30 minutes, then say a quick prayer to the bundt cake gods before flipping it out of the pan. Next, brush the remaining whiskey syrup all over the top of the cake. At this point, you can move on to making the ganache, but I highly recommend covering the cake and leaving it in the fridge to rest for at least a few hours or preferably overnight. I find that the flavor and texture really improve if you give the cake this time to rest. The next day, I take my cake out of the fridge and prepare the ganache. Pour the hot milk over the chocolate chips, then cover it and leave it to rest. After 3 to 4 minutes, stir the ganache until it's thick and smooth and the chocolate chips are completely melted. If it doesn't come together at first, try putting the ganache in the microwave for another 10 seconds, then keep stirring. Finally, pour the ganache over the cake. Finish it off with a light dusting of cocoa powder. And there you have it, the best ever whiskey chocolate bundt cake.